Okay. All right, we're in. So here's what we've got so far in Juno. I think what I want to do, I think I want to do this one and this one. I want to get these endurance trip ones out of the way because I really don't like to do them. And I've got this truck, and that's going to get me, well, no. I think the best thing to do is we're going to do learning to fly round 2. So really fast, let's go to build. I want to load up our G1. There it is. There we go. That'll hide that a little bit better. What if we just... No, that won't work. Alright, there we go. And now, how do I make these retractable? Start extended. Okay. Yep, that'll work. That'll work. There it is. So I think that'll work for right now. Can I assign this to emission? Nope. Nothing that I can actually see. So let's do this. Alright, what are the issue? Oh, yep. I forgot about that. Yuri died. We gotta get a replacement astronaut. Oh, I don't have 24 million. That's how much it costs? Wow. 24 million to hire a new guy. Alright, that's alright. Let's do this. Okay. And that is 8. Okay. Here we go. Sally's going to take this thing all the way. See how that gets us. Ooh, we're building up a lot of speed now. We might actually do this. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. There we go. I'm at 0.25. We had to do that in a dive though. I'd rather not have to do that. So we're going to need to find a way to get some more power out of this thing. I think what I might try and do is I'll see if making the propeller fatter will allow us to do that. 3 minutes left and we are making great time. Point, we come in and do a descending rolling turn so that way we pick up some speed. There we go. And now we use that energy to come on over, Bring ourselves back down on that descending rolling turn. Maintain our speed. And we're back up. This is probably more like what Sally signed up for. Ooh, hold on, I got Valley Air Race going too. We'll have to try that one next. We're not going to get that one. Unless we have a little bit longer once we're finished here. Yeah, we might be able to. Kind of depends. I'd like to get this thing going faster than 100 meters per second before I do that. I think we should get it to 150 meters per second before we try make an attempt at the air race, the Valley Air Race. Alright, let's deploy the landing gear. Oop, a little unstable there. Okay. We're going to start a climb. Try and land right there. Alright, well, that worked. Beautiful. Alright, beautiful, beautiful. Now I have 25 tech points, that's a little better. Let's get shockingly fast. Let's get another shockingly fast. Let's go back to build and see what we can do. We'll use Valley Air Race as our test. So our blade count as high as we can. Our blade. If we turn our blade width up to max. What if we make our hub a little, well, make our hub a little bit, maybe, let's go with 120. All right. Let's see what that does. I feel like that accelerated us a little faster. Well, how it feels and how it is might be different. Let's see what goes on. Let's make sure that we have opened up this one. Oh yeah, here we go. This thing is moving now. Okay, here we go. I think we're making good time. I think. I'm not actually 100% sure. This is a pretty long track, but this is about the halfway point coming up here in a couple of checkpoints. This is a great one to get some flying time in, because then you can just get as many of those. You could do this as many times as you need to, and it'll be a ton of flying. So you get a ton of experience, and it's a pretty light on maneuverability kind of one, and so it's easier to actually do. Try and keep up this extreme speed. New record for you, Sally. Good job. Keep it up. Time is good. I bet you this thing could do it if I put it into a nice, rather steep climb. And then just, had it go into a dive. This thing could do the 0.5 Mach 0.5, but alas, I am not playing that way. We're not cheesing it. We're not cheating. We're doing this in general. It says it wants me to fly horizontally. I could put it in shallow dives, but I'm not going to put it in a full dive. So at this moment, Mach 0.25 is the record, and I think it's going to hold for just a little bit until I can unlock some new parts. We're going to do this one, and then we'll swap to a couple other mission types. I might try and run some tests with the aircraft. We may just end up adding a second propeller on it. I might throw one onto the back, kind of thing, just to see how that affects its ability to just see how if more engine produces more thrust, and by that logic would produce more lift or more anger. I'm not 100% sure. We're going to try and stay low because the goal is to try and stay as fast as possible, and climbing loses us a ton of that. But what we might do on this part is we might climb over this part of the mountain over here and then swing around. Oh, okay. I guess the trees aren't collidable. Felt like I was falling asleep there for a minute. Alright, we need to do a climb over this part. And then we're going to dive down on it. Ready? Here we go. Pick up even more speed over here. Here we go. Come on, Ben, you got this. Whew, you would think the Red Bull and the Monster I had today would help me try and stay awake, but I feel like I'm falling asleep. I gotta do something more entertaining. Here we go, here we go. Let's get this dive. And then pull up. And flip it over back into a dive. Right over the hill. Sally must love having me at the controls. We have 5 minutes left, and we only have 4 checkmate points remain after this one, so I think we're gonna make it. Five. Let's try and go straight for it. So we're gonna pick some of our shallowest areas, but we want to go as towards it as possible. So that way we cut off a little bit of that flying that we don't need to do. Alright, there we go. Now we're coming at it. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure this thing could easily hit 0.5 if I put it into a steep dive. But I don't want to do it that way. I want legitimate. I want in level flight 0.5 G's or 0.5 miles. Ooh, I almost biffed that one. Almost bought the farm there. Almost killed my only remaining astronaut. And these guys are expensive to hire. Okay. Three minutes remain. And we're at the final stretch. Actually going to throttle down to about 50% because these last few ones are pretty much lining up with the heading, with the runway. And it's easier to have us coming in a little slower for that. We're almost there. One more checkpoint. There it is. And then we can start. I think what I'm going to do for this. So like I think what we need to do is we're going to have to add just a couple more engines to it. But I kind of want to keep this shape, so it might be good to build another airplane instead. I like the cockpit and I like the body, so we might keep that. But it might just need to be I take the center propeller off and add 2 propellers to the side there. That might be what we do. Especially now that we've got retractable landing gear. I'd like to get landing bays before we unlock jets, so. Alright, good job, Sally. Great work. Let's hit learning to fly round 3, and that'll be our test for the new one. So let's go back to build. And what I'm going to do instead, so I'm going to take this off. I'm going to take this off. I'm going to trash that. I want to add, we're going to add 2 sets of wings. So anyway, first thing, I'm going to make that a little bit fatter so that way push it back to about here. And then going to make this a little wider and put that right about like that right there. And then we're going to make this nice and big. Okay. I'm going to do this. Shrink that down to like 0.6 meters in diameter. Pull this back like that. Add that right there. You know what? This is going to go on here like that. We're just going to push it back into it like about there. And then these, I'm going to go back. I'm going to set this right here like that. And let's just rotate that around on the Z angle. Make this the right texture. Make it the right color. Right about there, yeah. And these need to be the right color. There we go. And now we can add the wheels back. Let's double check that center of lift and center of mass. Still looks good. I think I'm going to, just for the sake of maneuverability, just move that up a little bit. And then what we're going to do is we'll add those landing gear back in. Right about there, yeah. And I think that'll do it. Let me make sure. So our max width is 32 meters and our width is 12. So this should be good. And it definitely is probably going to have the power that we need for it. So let's try it out. Let's see how this does. First things first. This is the G2. Oh man, is it real laggy? Okay. Here we go. Throttled up, pull it back. Let's go back over here. Let's get Village Race. Nope, not Village Race. Learning to Fly. And Shockingly Fast. And this is still good to go right here. Beautiful. Sally on board. Already feeling a little speedier. And we got the land speed record with it. Landing gear coming up. We're already at 80 meters a second. We're in a bit of a dive though. A little, I think we need to make those ailerons a little bigger, but otherwise it's pretty good. We're getting well up where we need to go. I don't think we're going to get that 0.5 like we want, but I think we'll definitely accomplish the learning to fly objectives. Okay, wow. It's going fast. At 90 meters per second, I think we're doing pretty good. Yeah, those ailerons need to be way bigger because this thing is really struggling with the roll. It's real sluggish in the roll, which isn't great. So we need to kind of move those out, and I think we need to move them in towards the let's extend our landing gear. We are definitely moving. There it is. Oh, well, that got us another set of tech points. Let's recover that. Might be good to get that, but you know, let's think. I think for right now what I want to do is I'm just going to get this just so that way we can get ready to start doing missions with our rocket. But we're going to continue with the aviation program that we've got going on here. So let's do round 2 in that one. Wait a minute. I thought I completed that. Oh, no, that was just a ground speed record. I didn't actually complete the mission. Airspeed. And all we need to do is get to Mach 0.5, and we get 20 more tech points anyway. So I think what we need to do, let's go to build here. And let's look at oh yeah, we need to extend these out this way, and I'm going to move this in right here like that. And I think what I'm going to do here is I am going to add a control surface, but its control is going to be, we're going to have it be brake. So it'll kind of be our flaps, and it'll go down with our brakes. So let me let's get that painted the right color. There we go. Now let's just test that out really fast. I want to see what the braking does with it if we hold down B. Okay, that does it in reverse. Let's go back to our VAB, our editor. Go to still want it to be brake, but you know, yeah, we might just delete the control surface there. It's good enough as it is. Let's think about how to increase speed here. You know what might increase speed? Less wing. Let's get this thing down to like our absolute minimums. Right there. That'll increase speed. I bet you if we remove the batteries from that, add batteries to this, just reduce that to about 50 kilowatt hours, that will reduce a lot of weight on this thing. So let's see where that puts the weight and the balance. Moves the weight way forward. So now what we need to do is move the wings back. Oh, but the wings. The wings also have the batteries in them. Might be able to why did it disappear? Did I just make this batteries? This one. What happened at the center of lift? Okay. Just throw 2 of these back on real fast. Just make it a little bit longer. And a little bit wider. See what happens with it. Let's see what that helps a little bit, reducing weight, adding some batteries to the main fuselage, and reducing drag. Okay. So anyway. Let's get our camera in position, nav ball open. Ooh, that feels way. Oh, don't tip like that, please. Okay, that feels way better. But I think we gotta watch our batteries now. And we got fast roller. It feels faster. We're still accelerating. We have a lot of opportunity in this race to get some, to build up some speed. We're still accelerating a little bit. And it doesn't feel as sluggish in the roll as it did, although I think it might also be just the torque from the that might also just be the torque from the propellers that's causing a lot of those issues with roll. We've hit Mach 0.3. If we can push it just a little bit further than that, I think we can definitely do this. I don't know if we can get to Mach 0.5 with it. That seems like a huge stretch for this thing. It can definitely move it. I think if we wanted to, we could probably do like a steep climb and then a dive, but I don't think that's going to work. At least not with this one. We'll need to think of something else. Or we may just need to bigger propellers and more powerful engines. We can get this thing up to Mach 0.33. That's our top speed right now. I think if we pull ourselves up a little bit, and put it into a dive, we'll hit some pretty crazy speeds. I may also just need to we're maintaining pretty close to Mach 0.2 most of the flight. Above Mach 0.2. And this thing can definitely, battery's running low. This might be the one where we really need to unlock that fuel cell to start giving these things more power. And then we'll have to install fuel. Time left. See if we can't do like a shallow climb or a steeper climb to get some altitude while we make our way there. And then when we get to like I think we can do it. I just, I think we can complete this mission at least. We can complete the race. And we can get there. One of the ways that we may be able to complete this mission is if we get to some more extreme altitudes. Really put ourselves right on the edge of what we're technically capable of, or at least what this thing was, where we're flying right now. Because right now we're flying in pretty soupy air. We can go, if we could stay under, all we got to do is get up above about 10 kilometers, and I bet you we'd be able to push this thing way faster because the air is just not as soupy up there. And then we'll be able to really get things going. Anyway, here we go. Really cutting it close with this and the batteries. Hopefully our batteries stay connected until after think one thing I really want to try and do on this one, I've always tried to do it, but I'm never very good at it. I've always struggled with the re-entry part of it, so I might try and do that with some small scale ones once we get some re-entry heating, some heat shield supplies. Is I want to build a space plane. So we're going to start, I think, by building, because I want to do that for, especially for those rescue missions where you have to rescue a Druid in orbit. I want to build a space plane that I can land back at any of these runways that we have access to. So I think we'll start doing some testing on that with what we've got. I need a payload bay though. So let's see where the payload bay is at and see what I need to do to unlock that. And then that'll be, I think that's what I want to do for the focus of this stream, is work towards unlocking that by doing some aviation and other missions, in space missions. Because then if we could, I'd love to be able to just do as much of this as possible with space planes and landing and all that other stuff. I'd also think it'd be really, really cool. I think it can be done, and I think I can do it. I want to try and land on the Juno village runway from orbit. I think I can do it. The biggest hurdle is the fact that the heat shields aren't as effective as I think they should be. So I need to figure out how I want to shape the spacecraft, and then where I need to be putting heat shield parts so that way it absorbs all that heat, and then also how I need to be re-entering so that way I'm not, killing my crew or killing the spacecraft. Okay, we're going to cut it really close here with battery, but I think we can in fact do this. I think that one of the parts that they should definitely think about adding is more airplane parts to Juno New Origins, just for like turboprops and piston powered propellers. Because while these propellers that we have here are great, and the propellers that we use and the electric powered ones are pretty good, I feel like having something that uses a fuel rather than electricity would be a little better, especially since I really don't want to have to build one of those. Let's try and shrink, because I think we have plenty of time. We have time to do this. We just need to make sure that we have, power to be able to get back. And we're cutting it pretty dang close. Let's get some more speed. Yep, and we're out of power. Let's see if we can glide back. I'm going to just speed up time a little bit, and I want to try and maintain speed. Hey, just so you know, I'm live streaming. Just so you know, I'm live streaming.
Huh?
I'm streaming.
Okay. I just needed my shoes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you knew that before you walked in. And we can't finish it. Okay. Perfect. And now we have killed Sally. Great. We're out of astronauts. Well, let's do satellite mission. Alright, our focus now is not on these, although I think we have time, but our focus is now going to be making money so we can get our astronauts back. And then also I need, where is, no, We got rotators and everything. Lunar tire. I would like to get this because I think that would help with some of that. Docking port, trap door. Oh, trap door. Okay. And that's the next thing in packing it tight. So all we need is about 55, which we can definitely get. So really fast, let's go back to build, and let's get started building our editing up the cobblestone. Where is that at? Cobblestone 1. Let's get rid of that. Let's add this. Let's throw this in there, and then just put this on top. Let's see, how tall is that? 10 meters? 9.95. That's good enough. Right there. Alright, let's double check the staging. Stage should... How many? Okay, we can only have 3 stages. So, but I think this lower stage should get us all the way into space, so we should be fine. Let's launch it and get this thing to our desired. So anyway, not this one. True orbit and satellite mission. Oh. Oh, we didn't save it with that. Okay, I guess we're just launching this ourselves, because I don't feel like going back and doing that. Okay. 109 by 115. 681 by 715. Periapsis above 80 kilometers. So, guess what, buddy? Let's go into that special orbit that you wanted for the upper stage here. So, we're just going to do that. Thrust to weight ratio, I want to lower that down. Keep that about 3. I think it would be really cool if, like, it's still, like, it didn't count it as your craft, but it kept the satellites that you put in orbit. It counts them as debris. So when you time warp away, they just disappear. I wish it wouldn't do that. I wish it would instead allow you to keep those in there as, like, trackable things. So that way you can, you know, go to them later. So anyway, our periapsis for this one needs to be 109 by 115. So let's just keep burning. Till, alright, stage is completely dead. Lock on prograde. Throttle down to 0. Deploy the second stage. And we're in space. So let's throttle up just a little bit because we want to get our apoapsis up to that 109. So that way we can just transfer right to that orbit. There we go. Now we just wait. Three, two, one, fire. Full power. And begin raising the apoapsis. Or periapsis. 681 by 705 is our goal. 17. Oh yeah, this will work. Let's keep our thrust just a little bit. All right. 200. $300. $400. $600. That's 1, 2. Okay. That is 2 of them. Beautiful. All right. I think we are going to deorbit this right here. Because I'd really like to move towards second stage reuse, because if we can perfect second stage reuse early, then when we get to the point where I want to start doing first stage reuse, then when first stage reuse becomes a thing, we'll be able to do that. I know it seems a little backwards, but like spaceplane second stage reuse, I think is the biggest challenge. And if we can do that earlier, where we're reusing second stage engines and reusing the second stage as like a space shuttle sort of thing, then when it comes time to do that first stage reuse, that'll be something that we can more easily and readily do. Who knows how that'll work out, and then we'll basically just jump straight into full reusability right away, because we will have perfected that. And then we can also use that for recovering satellites, recovering payloads, recovering space junk, whatever we want. I want to try and avoid space junk as much as possible, which is why we're deorbiting this and trying our best to recover it, honestly. Like, that is kind of the deal that we're going with here. But, you know, it'll be interesting to see how we're able to do that. Anyway. So that's going to crash pretty far away. We know it's going to crash. We might just attach parachutes to them and see if we can't start recovering them as well. Because we have enough fuel in them that, I mean, we have enough fuel that I could send this thing straight to Siluro, I think. I have more than enough fuel to be able to get myself on an escape trajectory, like, really, really easily. I might even just do that, you know? Build a tiny satellite that'll just go straight to Siluro. Alright. And this thing can obviously do a CubeSat mission like that. And yeah, we'll get the, well, we don't have the stuff for it yet. How much to get a new... Alright, so, anyway, let's see where we're at. Ooh, the cutting corners air race. Well, we're not do that yet. Let's see. So, if we do 10 more contracts, that'll give us 40 points. That'll be good. If we launch 10 more craft, that'll give us another 30. So that'll basically give us the what we need for the payload bays. We also need, so in order to get it to work, we need not slow descent, getting hot, heat shield coating, and heat shield. What we might try and do is we might just try reshaping the top here. You know what, let's do that. So first off, let's just move this over here. Well, we need the payload bay first, so that way we can actually, you know, deploy the satellites out of it, and we'll still deploy them out the nose, so that way it's the easiest thing. So let's just get the payload bay, and the first thing we need to do, 2 satellites. So in order to do that, I'm going to grab this, shrink it small, flatten it out, put it on the side here, and oop, pull that in, 2. Okay, that'll work. I think that'll work. Alright, really fast, let's take a look at the mission here. CubeSat, 2 CubeSats, 134 and 82. So for that one, I'm going to set the apoapsis to 85000. And I'm going to get rid of orbit periapsis. And we're instead going to do orbit apoapsis here. Right there, and really fast, save to craft, 134. So make sure that that gets there. 4, 1, 2, 3. There we go. Let's see if this just does it. So all we need to do is do 10 more of these, and we're good to go. So, log, CubeSat mission, launch with the 2 CubeSats. Man, they gotta get us a wide margin of error there. Immediately beginning pitch over maneuver. This is all automated. No hands. Look, Ma, no hands. Would it be better if I moved my camera? No. It's got more of a view over there. Right there. So that way by me looking this way. Looks more like I'm looking at it. Okay. I wish I could just tell it that this is not assigned to that mission, but you know what? We're fine. Howdy, how are you today? Welcome to the stream. Merry Christmas, I guess. My name's Ben. Welcome to my live stream. I apologize it's so quiet, and that I'm so quiet because I don't have really anything to talk about. I wanted to really do a stream where I talk about some of my favorite space subjects, because I'm pretty jazzed about space stuff. I just haven't had a chance to do anything. How are you doing today, Thierry? Am I saying that right? Maybe this thing can get up to where we need it to. It's going to put it to 85. That's what it's going to do. And then it's going to shut the engine off. And then we're going to once we get up above about 75, no, I'm going to do 70 kilometers above the surface, I'm going to deploy the next stage, which I think will be pretty cool. And then the next stage is going to burn us all the way into orbit. 70. Ooh. There is more drag on this thing without the nose cone than I thought. I thought that this would move out. Well, it's awesome of you to join us today. I'm real excited to have you. Engine should be firing up here pretty soon. I'm excited. This is going to be all automated, so I have no hands on the controls at all. I programmed this rocket myself. It was a while ago, actually. I could talk a little bit about how that program works once we finish with the mission. Right now I'm working towards building a mostly fully reusable rocket. That's the goal. I'm early on in my career mode. And so, but what I want to do for starters is I want to perfect doing reusable upper stages. And the way that I'm going to do that is I want to build space planes that are going to be launched on top of rockets. That's okay. I apologize. I don't speak a lick of Portuguese, so I couldn't. I'm absolutely happy to answer your questions about the universe. I love answering questions. That's why I do this. So fire away. I'll do my best. Okay. Ooh. That might have actually been really good. Okay. Let's just get rid of these really fast. And then we're going to go backwards. Now, I will warn you, I'm not an expert in space. I just am a nerd who spends way too much time researching it. So, if I don't know a question, I would love for you to ask it, because then if I get stumped, I go down a rabbit hole where I'm doing more research on things that are really, really cool. Oh, my thing's pointing way up. If I point it more down, I'm trying to find the right spot for this. I am not the best streamer because I don't really know what I'm doing. I'll be honest with you. Let's see if that's good enough. Bet you we'll be able to land this thing. Especially since we have 1.9 kilometers per second at delta V remaining. I really overbuilt this rocket, and this is like, I call it the cobblestone because it's supposed to be like early. Ooh, we're taking damage. How much? Oh, we only took that much damage. This might be the way so 2,500. No heat shield required. Yeah, a room it has a limited area and a micro ecosystem. Kinda, yeah. I'm on track. In a room, it has a limited area, limited micro ecosystem. Okay. We just need about 5 more. How a room can be infinite. Where is the limit of the universe? That's a good question. So obviously there is limited mass or limited stuff in the universe. Like the universe is limited in that. But space itself, like, is also not limited. Like you can always keep going further away from other stuff. And that it's hard to explain. But it's kind of that goes way into like the deep physics stuff. So it's like you can always get further and further away from things in our universe. Like there's no end to how far away you can get from stuff. And that kind of gets a little confusing because then you hear about how the universe is expanding, and how can it be expanding if it's infinite? So what's it expanding into? It's not really expanding into anything. What's happening is the space between things is getting bigger because there's this energy that we don't know where it comes from or what causes it. That's called dark energy that's in that space between things. And that energy is causing the space itself to expand. And that's kind of how the universe itself, while limited, is infinite, but also still... So the universe itself is limited. There's limited stuff, but the space itself, the space, there's no barrier, there's no edge of the universe. I guess you could say the edge of the universe would be the edge of where all the stuff is. There's no more stuff beyond that point, kind of thing. Does that help answer your question, or if I made it worse? Because I feel like I made it worse. I need to... 203 and 82. So I think we'll stick with the 85. And then what we'll do is we'll increase our time to apoapsis to 30 seconds instead. And that might help us out with that issue that we had last time. I mean, it worked. Satellite got into the required orbit within the margins of error, but also the satellites were in the atmosphere. So I forgot I was going to talk about a little bit more about my code, but yeah. cosmology is really, really complicated and hard to like understand. Some of these subjects are just so big and massive that they're really, really hard to wrap your head around, which I think is like really, really cool. The universe itself is not built to be understood. I mean, you could look at it and say, yeah, that it's built. I'm not going to make an argument that it is or isn't, because that's not my place to make that argument. I'm just a streamer, but it's just it gets really, really hard to understand these subjects, and so it's the universe and the space that things can exist in is infinite, but the objects and the things in it are finite. Yes, I know I went too high for shockingly fast, but this is a rocket, not a vehicle designed to. This is not my aircraft that I'm trying to get that record with. Sorry, my back itches. I know I'm getting like way out of the frame there. Showing off my Worm logo t-shirt with a hole in it. That's great. Well, too late to change it now. And, you know, that kind of goes into kind of a conversation that's a little bit more about how the universe will end. So, yeah, there's a finite amount of stuff in the universe, which is pretty cool. But that means that that stuff will eventually. So there's this thing called the heat death of the universe, where things are just going to get cold and dark because all of the stars have burnt all of the usable hydrogen in the universe, and because of that, there's not going to be the ability for brand new stars to form, and they've fused it all into heavier elements that make it so that way it can't really. It's impossible for them to form brand new stars, or for the stars that exist at that time to continue existing, and so all of these stars are going to either collapse into white dwarfs and eventually black dwarfs, or black holes, or neutron stars, and the universe will slowly just dissipate all of that energy out into space, and all that's going to be left is the cold blackness with dead planets and long dead stars in it, which is scary to think about, but also just so far away in our future that it's like not even something that you really need to worry about at all. 2, 1, fire. So now we just need to get our periapsis, or our apoapsis. Our periapsis is going to come up and replace our apoapsis. Our periapsis is going to be about 85 kilometers, and our apoapsis is going to replace it, is instead going to stretch up to that 200 something that the contractor wanted. And it looks like it's going to do that very, very soon, because now we are getting to the point where this thing is going to start stretching out way further, and our thrust to weight ratio is almost at 2. In fact, what I can do to try and make sure that our apoapsis stays above the atmosphere is, I always forget that I can do this. Is just start to point up just a little bit and try and there we go. Here we go. Let's point radial out for deployment. And 3, 2, 1. CubeSats deployed. That is another successful mission. now we just point retrograde. And bring ourselves down to that 2,500 meters per second. You know what? Let's try and get a little closer to, because I bet you we could land this thing if we bring ourselves closer to our launch site, right about here. And we do our deorbit burn here. We could bring ourselves down right on top of the right on top of the launch site, or about as close to it as we can get. Bet you we'll be able to recover it. And then once we do that, hopefully, I think there's a couple, before I could do anything else, there is a couple more missions that we can do before we can unlock the, okay, bet you that's a recoverable area now, because the oceans are just too expensive. But I bet you if we just get a few 100 kilometers away, oh, nice, we didn't even take heat damage there. Hey, look at that. Landed it. And now let's see what happens if we hit. And we get $45,000 back. Nice. Okay, all we need now is... let's keep doing this. 3 satellites. Nice. Okay. Now we're getting up to the edge of our capabilities here. This thing. Let's see how many more missions we need to complete. 8 more missions we need to complete. Returns. So we need to recover $10 million worth of product, or 250 explosions. Something else we can do. Let me see. 100 orbits. We don't know. 25 orbits. We've got 6. We can get... ooh, we're pretty close to getting the distance flying record, and that'll get us another 30. Yeah, we're at 4.66 million. Well, we might get this one with it. So let's go back to build. What we're going to do for this is we're just going to grab that. Radial times 3. Okay. Now let's go to career really fast. I want to get that rate 97 by 532. So 532, 1, 2, 3. And we'll just do 97, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Save to craft. It should be able to do it. Oh, encoding overload. Okay. Some glitch with one of the mods that I have has that happening every now and then, which I guess is fine. I don't care, but you know, it'd be nice if it didn't happen. I think it's specifically something with the Better Time Warp mod that I've got for Juno, so not 100% sure. We do have a good concept for recoverable, a recoverable second stage now, although I'd like instead to be able to land it back at the Juno runway instead of, you know, taking off and landing like a rocket. Like, as cool as that is, I feel like landing like an airplane is just the best. It's just way cool, and there's more application for that for a crewed version of that, because I mean, obviously astronauts are pilots and they would like to be able to fly. I personally am not a pilot, and like, I have had desire in the past to become a pilot, but you know, it's just not. There it is. We can start building our space plane now. And I think the way that I want to do that is I'm going to change up how so anyway, we're going to keep this fuel tank, this much fuel in there. We might actually decrease it because we're going to change the shape of this a little bit, and instead this should get to that 97. It should very easily get to that. 86, 87. Probably not, though. Well, there that goes. It's okay. That's why we have auto stage. And we're high enough in the atmosphere that that doesn't really matter. So the payload should be fine. Yeah, and it's not even causing all that much drag. We're going to be out of the atmosphere before it drops below 97. Hopefully. Oh yeah, we're out. We're still going to make to that 97 where he initially wanted it in the thing. And with that 30 seconds... it should not cause that big of an issue. No issue there. I do want to be able to deploy this fairing on a separate one, but I guess that doesn't really matter because in the future we're not even going to use the fairing. We're going to be using payload bays now. And we'll be going into these extreme orbits and coming back from orbit with like a plane. So Apollo 11 was real, and there's a lot of really good evidence to support that. Chief amongst them is the fact that the Soviet Union, the country that the United States and much of the Western world, at least the Western world that I was a part of, was not very friendly with at that time. And the United States, in competition with the space race, which was kind of like just a bragging competition, where the crew and the astronauts were just trying, or where the countries and their leaders were trying to one-up each other in terms of space flight and space accomplishments. they all led up to that. So the space race really started in 1957 with the launch of Sputnik 1. And the way that we were able to confirm that Sputnik 1 was real was because Sputnik sent out a radio broadcast, and that radio broadcast could be read by literally anyone here on Earth. Like literally anybody could receive that, which was pretty interesting, and it tracked with the reports that the Soviets told us about where it was, the type of orbit it was in, similar to how my spacecraft was in a different orbit. They could use things like Doppler to figure out where it was, and it built up from there. The Soviet Union again beat the United States in a competition in the early stages in 1962, launching the first human being into space and the first man into orbit, Yuri Gagarin. The United States did not deny that that was a thing because they were able to track the spacecraft and understand and knew where it was, and then the Soviets confirmed their story, and then the United States developed the Gemini program. And with the Gemini program's job was to prepare for the eventual landing on the moon, because President Kennedy at that time made that challenge. He wanted to land astronauts on the moon before the end of the decade. And that was a big ask. And the assumption was that the Soviets were probably working towards that goal as well. And so with that came a lot of steps that needed to be learned how to do. That just couldn't be faked. It just wasn't viable to fake those sort of things. For example, one of the big things that they had to perfect that was useful in our modern day space program is rendezvous and docking. Being able to meet up with two spacecraft in space and make certain that and dock them together, connect them together, so that way they are from two spacecraft to one spacecraft. The original idea for going to the moon was something called direct ascent, but they realized that the weight it just wasn't going to be possible to do that with direct ascent. So they instead came up with the idea of lunar orbit rendezvous, where they launched two spacecraft instead of just one, and those two spacecraft would meet up in space around the moon to bring the crew home, and then one of those spacecraft would only be used to land on the moon. That's a concept that didn't exist before Apollo became a thing, and so a lot of developmental steps were taken with that concept in mind. Apollo 11 wasn't the only Apollo launch to ever happen. Apollo 11 was preceded by Apollo 7, 8, 9, and 10. 7 was a test of the Apollo command module in low Earth orbit. And it was a successful mission. It flew with 3 crew members on board. I believe Wally Schirra, a Mercury astronaut, was one of them, and I can't remember the other two crew members who were on board that flight. And then Apollo 8, flying with Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, and a third person, also was to test the command and service module in orbit around the moon, and also send the first crewed spacecraft to orbit the moon. Apollo 9 then took the entire stack, with the Apollo command module, the Apollo lunar module, and tested it all in lunar orbit to make sure that all of those systems work, and then do safety tests to make sure that the lunar module could rendezvous back with the command module in low Earth orbit in practice to prepare to do it for the moon. And then Apollo 10 took all of those things that Apollo 9 did and then tested them around the moon, not actually landing. If Apollo 11 was a fake mission, I don't know why they would have bothered to have done any of those steps with the testing of the spacecraft, because that would have just been a waste of time. You know? Because if they were just going to fake it, why bother doing any of those tests? Why bother doing any of that? Why not just fake it, say that they did it? And then another really good argument is, if NASA was willing to fake big achievements, why haven't they done anything on the scale of Apollo again? Why haven't they say, gone to Mars? Why haven't they continued the lunar missions? Why did it end after Apollo 17, after only 6 successful landings? And I think that that is a pretty good indication. So yes, Apollo 11 is real. And most Americans, like I'll be honest with you, American teachings about spaceflight operations is very, very limited. I am very much an outlier within the United States because I spend a lot of time learning on my own about spaceflight. It's definitely not taken up the media like it used to because it's not a big thing anymore here. It's a big thing to me, but if you were to look at NASA's funding year to year, you'll see that overall, ever since Apollo 11, actually, the budget has shrank considerably. When Apollo 11 landed on the moon and when Apollo was at its peak, NASA got about 5% of the entire U.S. federal budget. Nowadays, it gets like 0.5% of the U.S. federal budget, or not 0.5%, barely half a cent for every dollar that an American puts into taxes. So it's, given the accomplishments of the space program in today, it's kind of incredible what they have been able to accomplish with as little funding as they have had. So, yeah. Okay, our career, 2 sets. So now the goal that I want to do for Cobblestone 2 is we want to upgrade this upper stage here into the fully reusable model that we're going to be using from now on. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start changing shapes here. Let's start up at the top. We're going to do let's do 0.4. And 0.4. Right there, just like that. Okay. And then in order to make it a little better, we're going to have it be 1 meter. No. 0.25 meters wide. Yeah, I like that. We're going to actually shrink this engine down. Well, we're at the smallest it can be. So I think now what I need to do is we need to two, three. Okay, there we go. Just like that. And then up here, like that. Zero 0.4. There we go. So we'll make it a there we go. I like that. I like that a lot. And then what I'm going to do really fast here, I'm going to hit start open so that way we can add in, so this career for this first test, 2 satellites. So we're going to do this again. Reuse this to kind of add okay. Let's hit this one. Let's see if that closes those up all the way. Oh, that's beautiful. I think that'll work. Alright, now we just need to wing it up. So, right about there. I kind of like this upturn like look to it just a little bit there. And then what we'll do, we'll mirror that, add a control surface. That'll be good. So this is going to be roll. Need to add another one. It'll be roll. This is going to be pitch. And okay. You have some good questions. I like you a lot. And then add a control surface. Okay. So anyway, now let's see how. All right. Center mass moves forward as we drain fuel, which is good. that, and now what we need to do is we just need, I'm going to actually, yeah, about like that. And we're just going to do right about there, yeah. And that'll move that center of mass up. And this is, so let's see here. Village pad, the widest that it can be is 3 meters. What I'm going to do with this is we're going to okay, so our limitations are set in stone with that. So let's try and work within that there. So width is 2.36 meters. And what I'm going to do is I would like to mirror that, okay. And then we're going to add another control surface. That one's going to be pitch. For that, we need to just extend that a little further. And then I want to still at 2.63. That's good. Let's actually just push these in. I apologize, I don't have as much to say about the Apollo 11 thing. Like, I could literally go on for days about Apollo 11. I just, Apollo 11 is such a cool and amazing mission. It's incredible of what they were able to accomplish with Apollo 11. Like, the Apollo program itself is one of the coolest things ever. And I have some opinions about Apollo itself that are maybe a little unconventional to most space fans. I personally feel that the Apollo program was a little bit flawed, mainly because one of the things that it did was that it kind of set this precedent, this idea that we can do these big accomplishments, but Apollo was not actually the best way to go to the moon. It was the fastest way to go to the moon, and that was its goal. Of course, its goal was to go to the moon as quickly as possible and land on it before the Soviet Union could, and it accomplished that goal. It did a very, very, very good job with that goal. There are a lot of interesting people out there. Flat earthers are just an interesting group of people. Like, I don't have great opinions on flat earthers. it's just they're we live in an age of what I call willful ignorance, and it's frustrating that that is a thing that just exists. Like, you have like in your pocket here, right here. This is a result of the Apollo program, the first ever silicone chip computer, just like in this cell phone here, just like the cell phone, the computer that I am playing this game on, was developed in the Apollo program. It's called the Apollo Guidance Computer. It had about a 2,000 word memory. That means that it could store 2,000 words. That's how much it could remember in its code. And that 2,000 word memory was that 2,000 word memory was used to help land the astronauts on the moon. And the way that it was able to do that was because the computer, it was used to guide the astronauts. It was used as a tool to help them understand where they were, where they were going, and all this other stuff. That was really, really interesting and useful for the astronauts to know. And so with that, what developed from that was actually shortly after Apollo 11's landing, Neil Armstrong retired from being an astronaut and moved into an administrative role. And one of the first things he did was before he was an astronaut, he was a test pilot. He approved the development of a program that would take the Apollo guidance computer, literally an Apollo guidance computer, and put it into an airplane, particularly an F-8 Crusader, that was used to perform testing to ensure to develop fly-by-wire computers or fly-by-wire airplanes. Basically, an airplane that would take a command from your stick and then do what you wanted it to do and not what you told it to do. So, for example, if I put an input like a left roll input on a normal airplane, all it's going to do is roll left. With a fly-by-wire computer, it is going to roll left and then also maintain my pitch attitude and help me maintain my yaw. And it's going to actuate all of the controls in order to do what the computer thinks I want to do. And that was one of the big developments that came out of the Apollo program. And flat earthers, the problem that I have with them and their beliefs, one, it's antithetical to science. It's just not possible that the earth is flat. That's just not a reality in which we live. And I don't want to say it's stupid, but it's willfully ignorant of the facts of reality. And their arguments come from this place of paranoia. And it sounds like Zenadao, he is, whoever this person is, he is believing that he has this paranoia and religious conspiracy theory belief that the establishment, real science, or whatever he wants to call it, is trying to hide the real shape of the world in order to hide Jesus or something else from the world, from the earth, when that just isn't the case. Christianity is the top most worshipped religion on the planet. So him saying that is just stupid. Like, if that was the goal, it's not working because Christianity has basically won. I mean, it's possible that Christianity at some point will no longer be the top religion in the world, but that is not going to be because of the belief that that's not going to be because we told people that the earth is round. That'll be for some other reason. Like, there's a lot of different reasons why these things happen, but he's paranoid. He's bought into this belief because someone else told it to him. It's probably not even something that he's fully researched himself and doesn't fully understand. So, it's a terrible. It's sad. It really is kind of sad that that's a thing that we have to kind of deal with in our modern day, because honestly, like, it's just not that. It's just so obviously not true. Like, it's not even funny how obviously not true flat Earth is. It's just sad how not true it is. Sometimes I do point and laugh a little bit, and I feel bad for doing that, because these people, these flat earthers, most of them, I would hope, need someone to just point them in the right direction. But it's just, some of them are just so far into this belief that the earth is flat, and that even their own, even though literally everything points to it not being the case, is just it's weird. You could get me ranting about that for hours. Like, it's the same thing with Apollo 11. Like the same thing with Apollo 11 being real. There is so much more evidence that Apollo 11 is real, that anyone who tells you that Apollo 11 or the Apollo program was faked in a studio would have to contend with. They have to work against that. It's just not. That's just not the most likely answer. It's just not. Like, there's so many things that NASA and the U.S. government would have had to do that it would have made more sense to actually just go to the moon than attempt to bamboozle people with all the shenanigans that they would have had to do in order to make that believable. But the sad thing is that that's not something that anybody who believes that the moon landing is fake or that the earth is flat is going to listen to. They're not going to listen to me tell them that. They're going to, they have this belief. This belief was not built off of evidence. This was built out of ignorance and paranoia. And that's the sad truth of it. So, it's like, there's a lot of flat earthers here in the United States too. There's a very famous one. A whole documentary on Netflix was made about him. His name's Bart Seabrel, and he genuinely believes that the earth is flat, and he holds conferences and a whole bunch of other just weird little weird little things, and they don't really do their own research on these subjects like they say they do. They fashion experiments where they feel like that is going to give them the answers that they want, and then if those experiments do not prove what they want, then they ignore them. And that's not how you do science. If I've gotten into a lot of conversations with them, I have spent time trying to educate them and tell them how their beliefs are just inherently wrong, and explain these concepts to them and answer their questions like I'm answering your questions now. But they don't want to hear it. If I give them if they ask me a question like why does this and this happen, and I give them the answer, they don't stop to ponder that. They move on to the next question. It's an attempt to get me. I don't want to get you. I want you to understand this subject. You want to get me. You want to stump me. And they can stump me. I'm not smart. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm a pretty clever guy. I'll admit I'm smarter than the average bear, at least. But they can stump me, and it's pretty easy to stump me. I'm pretty. It's a difficult. Like, a lot of things are difficult to understand, and I understand that it's hard to understand that. I know I don't know everything about everything. Again, cosmology is one of those things that I really struggle with. So, it's Part nose cone is taking damage. Oh, it's not that much damage. We'll be fine. And, you know, the Bible is a religious book that was... I don't want to say it was written by stupid people because I don't know what you believe. I personally am not a Christian anymore. I don't identify myself as a Christian. But the Bible has a lot of statements that it makes about a lot of things, and there's a lot of evidence that certain stories, for example, the story of Noah's Ark, does come not its origins are not from the Hebrew beliefs. It's actually first ever written account is in the Epic of Gilgamesh, a story that comes from the people, the Babylonian people, and so that's one of those things. It was a book that was written over a very, very long period of time by many different authors, many of which didn't speak the same languages or didn't believe the same things, and so it can have some weird things that they say about it. And if the Bible is truly the Word of God, as Christians believe, I'm not going to tell them that it isn't, because that's what they believe. That's their personal beliefs. Then I would say that they're probably taking those passages or those depictions out of context and trying to use them to fit their own narrative, which is a dangerous thing to do with a 2,000-year-old book. It's actually older than 2,000 years. Actually, it's just, you know, when the book was fully completed to what we know it as today, it was 2,000 years. It's 2,000 years ago. So, you know, a 2,000-year-old book, trying to use that to prove your own personal beliefs is a dangerous thing to do. And it's not always going to work out because, again, one, reality doesn't always match up with what you personally believe. That's just a fact of life. Not everything that you believe is true. I'm sure there are some things that I believe fully with my chest and my heart that just aren't true. Yeah, it is a little wild. You know, it's hard to believe that we live in a world where both for the last 20 years humans have lived off of the surface of the earth, and you can see that. Like, you can go to the launch site and watch them launch into space. You can go to you can download an app. Here, I'll tell you the name of the app that I use. You can download an app. I use ISS Live Now, which is on the App Store. And it has a feature that tells you when the space station is going to be visible from your location, which I think is really, really cool. I've used it multiple times, and I've seen the space station a bunch. It is really cool to see the space station when you have it like that. So, anyway. Opening up the payload bay now and deploying the satellites. The space shuttle upper stage works. Let's close that payload bay. I should just put that into an action group, honestly. And let's plan our return. So, anyway, I'm going to stay in space for a little bit longer with this thing because I want to get the landing site into my this is probably close enough. So we're going to get to right about here. I know, I really like the little satellites that they've added. We're going to have to do 2 burns, one here and then one as we get closer because I need to slow this down to less than 2,500. And then I need to basically point that the way that I need to. So this burn is going to be, hold on, what's our altitude right now? We might be able to pull this off. Let's actually start pointing a little more up because we're going to be doing a long burn anyway. This will be my first test where I think I might be able to land it at the space at the Juno Village runway. So that'll be interesting to see if that works. Yeah, see, I told you I could rant for hours about flat earthers. Like, you know, they could give me a but you know, I spent a lot of time debating them and talking with them, and it's just, it doesn't get anywhere because it's not that they don't understand these things, it's that they just don't care. Okay. Okay, and now we begin the descent. Which parts are taking heat damage? Okay. Oop, okay, yeah, wow, that is really, really, really maneuverable there. So we're gonna do, this worked! This worked! Let's see if we can land it back at the field. We gotta glide for 30 kilometers, but I think we can do it. And I think we're lined up right where we would need to be if we wanted to be able to land it. So let's try and get as close as we can. I don't know what the glide capabilities of this thing are. But it seems to be able to glide just fine at these sorts of speeds. Plus, I still have my engine. I can use that to pick up a little bit of speed. That's actually really cool. I am so good at this game. Coming in from orbit, landing on the village runway. The same runway we took off from not but one day ago. Deploying landing gear. Not but one day ago, we took off from that launch pad, and now we have returned. Look at it! It landed on the runway. Oh! Man, oh man, I'm sorry, I got a pimple right there and I keep picking at it, but I gotta stop. Especially when I'm on camera. I am a genius. I am brilliant. I am good at this game. They should give you points for that, like so many points. I think I deserve a medal. Honestly, happy 4th of July, everybody. And we recover it and we get 67,000 funds back. Oh, man. Oh, it's beautiful. It works. It just works. It's beautiful. Okay, we're going to, really fast, I want to open that up so that way I can get these things out. Pull these things off. And we are just going to save craft cobblestone 2. Now the next thing that we need to do is we need to develop first stage reuse. And I think for that one we're going to want to have bigger engine. So this is what we're going to keep using, the cobblestone upper stage here. But, you know, look at that. That is amazing. Look at how beautiful it is. Isn't it cool? And it can take off and land. Ooh, they want to do a Luna flyby? Well, prickle speck. And the fireworks have begun. Brilliant. I love that for us. That's amazing. Okay. The fuel margins that we have for this are just not going to be capable of doing it with this one. So, let's grab the cobblestone one. And this one is going to be what we use to get that Luna flyby. And then with that, we'll be able to how much more time have we got on this? Looks like it's infinite. Oh, I get tech points if it's crewed. Yeesh. Well, I don't have any crew anymore, so, you know, we're getting close to be able to hire more crew, but we need to, you know, make sure that we have enough money afterwards to continue launching. Granted, these launch vehicles are very, very cheap. So we're going to launch a cobblestone 1 off of the village pad. And we're going to try and attempt a flyby of Luna. Nope, we don't have it. Okay. Can I... set that as my target? Okay. So, what we need to do... I forgot to load up the one with my... I'll keep that open. We'll just close that for right now because I don't really care. Okay. Anyway. That was really cool. I did not expect that to work. I'm going to be fully honest with you. We can add some heat shield elements to it to mitigate some of that heat damage that we got, but that worked beautifully. We were able to very, very easily. Wow, I need to throttle back. Okay. We were able to very, very easily land back on the runway. And it could glide at a very low speed. 100 meters per second glide on that. Beautiful. Oh my God. That was awesome. I've never gotten a space plane to work in this game before. And so being that one works so beautifully and like no problems and was able to actually deploy the satellites was awesome. And that's, I think, what we're going to be using from now on, because I prefer space planes over everything. Being able to land on a runway is also really cool, and the fact that that is a slightly lifted up runway. All right, we're gonna get to 90 and then we shut the engine off. And because we need as much fuel as possible for that transfer burn, we're going to use all the fuel in this for the orbital insertion. There's a holiday going on right now called 4th of July. It is the anniversary of when the United States, when our founding fathers signed the Declaration of Independence. This is just for, because I didn't know I would have an international viewer. That is awesome. I'm so glad that you decided to show up. I'm really happy you're here, because I would love to talk to as many people as possible, because I love sharing all the knowledge and everything that I have learned over my 28 years of existing. But anyway, to celebrate, we light off a lot of fireworks. And I hate fireworks so bad. When I was really, really young, my state did not allow fireworks because they're just dangerous. Like, you know, you blow your hand off all the time. At this time of year, more dogs are lost because they run away because they're scared of the fireworks than any other time of year. Also, just it's a lot of problems, and so I genuinely have a deep seated hatred and dislike for fireworks. Okay, so I think blue is like we don't need much. All we need is enough to get that hyperbolic orbit around Luna. So if we can get ourselves along the equator or closer to the equator, that'll be way easier. And I think we can do it. We don't need all that much fuel anyway. So yeah, the Drew Space Center sits right on the equator. If I could just get to the get our orbit lines to just point over it, then we will have bang right there. Okay, now point prograde. And what we want to do is we want to be a little bit more than 90 degrees from it, and then we just fire. And now with our extremely high thrust to weight ratio, we will go all the way out and hopefully thank you very much. I really appreciate you stopping in. I had a great time. If you have any more questions, I'm going to try and do these sort of live streams more often, where I'm playing a space themed game and I talk about space themed stuff. And if you have any more questions, I'd love to answer them. Gas giants are also something that I personally have a lot of love to talk about. So, okay. There we go. We have a close approach. I think that's good enough. And I barely even scratched the surface about Apollo 11. I'm going to be honest with you. I think I want to get as close as possible to it, because I think that'll be more of what they want. Let's actually burn around to the other side, because if I'm imagining they've put special cameras on here. Like, I didn't personally put cameras on here. But I imagine they put special cameras on here, so that way when they fly by, they can take pictures of the further side of Luna, which I don't know if it is. I don't know if Luna is actually tidally locked to Drew, but it'll be but we'll be getting some good pictures of it as we fly by. A nice flyby. Love the little mare that they've added to it. I think it's really, really cool. This, I think Luna does. I'm gonna be honest with you. So there are things that I don't like about Juno New Origins, and there are things that I think Kerbal Space Program does better. But the planets in Juno New Origins are better than in Kerbal Space Program. That is just that's just a fact. Like, Juno New Origins really knew what it was doing. Okay, we're just gonna have to deal with this right here. See if we can't get a impact with. There we go. So now the spacecraft is gonna run out of batteries and just impact back on the surface. Coming down. Watch this thing survive for some reason. That'd be hilarious. But we're coming in way faster than I think we have ever come in before. Yep, there it goes. It's gone. That was cool. All right. Oh, wow, we only have 2 contracts. Oh, new customer. General Schaefer is in charge of the not-so-secret Ollie base, a facility hidden in a salt lake surrounded by mountains. He will command you to do some really interesting content, but he seems to be hiding something from you. Hey, I don't care. Now he wants me to... New location, Ollie pad. Yeah, I'll do it. 5 minutes to get into orbit. Alright. Are there any other missions that I can do? I guess not. Okay. Well, I think the best one to do that is, of course, the Cobblestone 2. Let's go into build really fast, and then we'll save it. So we're not gonna... That's not gonna start open. But activation group will be 7, and then we can come over here. Click this. 7. Payload bay doors. Alright. And now we have 5 minutes, so let's go in here. We're going to set this to 85, 1, 2, 3. We're going to get rid of this. 80, 1, 2, 3. And we are going to grab where Periaps is That's less than 80 kilometers. Oh, yep, there it goes. Save that to the craft. We are all systems go. Let's go get a better runway. Let's go get a better launch pad / runway. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have liftoff. Vehicle has begun pitch over maneuver. Let's actually put it so that way it is belly down. Ooh, we're taking off at sunset, which means that we're going to get a nice view of the sun as we ascend higher. But then it's going to set again, which is another really cool thing. That's one of the ways that we know that the Earth isn't flat. You can go to New York, quite literally. You can have one of your friends stand on top of the Empire State Building and another friend stay on the ground floor, and you both can watch the sunset at the same time, and the person higher up will have sunlight for longer than the person on the ground floor, because the sun, because they're higher up, they're able to see further over the curvature of the Earth, and you are actually able to and it will actually set later for the top of the building than the bottom of the building, which is pretty cool. So anyway, my apoapsis is right now 56 kilometers. Alright, the nose cone does take heat damage at launch, but that is okay. That is normal. I don't know why this thing seems to tend to roll for no reason. 70 kilometers up. And we have staging. The vehicle is now flying free and on its own engine. It's only 9:45. We're at 2 minutes. I bet you the reason we were having that roll issue was because alright, and now the engine ignites again. And this time it burns us all the way into orbit, and we have a whole minute to spare. Is awesome. Let's, as a point on this, actually land at the Ali Air Base. Like, obviously, you know, a demonstration of our space plane's capabilities. Because we're going to have way more fuel than we actually need to accomplish that. Quick deployment. And that's another... Ooh, we have enough that we can hire another astronaut. Nice. Alright. Now, where is your airbase? Here it is. Ali Base. Select that as my target. Okay. So, we have a nice high inclination, so we're going to watch that come around. I want it to be on the daylight side, so we're going to stay in orbit for a little longer, and right about. And 3, 2, 1, fire. And now we're going to burn basically almost all of our fuel off to bring ourselves back. And we're going to try and line ourselves up with the airbase, so that way when we bring ourselves down, we'll come in for a nice landing on the runway, just to show off to the general what we're capable of. Because this mission was just too easy. We made this way too easy. And then eventually what we're going to do is we'll build a crewed version of this. Hopefully, I think I'd like to build a crewed version of this. So that way we'll be able to send crew into orbit and land them on the surface. YouTube is not responding. That's brilliant. Hold on. Why did the stream status suddenly like really drop down? I think the only thing that I can really do about that is just keep going and hope that it gets better. Like that's all I can really do. Okay. Apologize about stream quality. Should have started this burn earlier, but alas, here we are. I think we'll still make it back because, you know, yeah. We'll be able to land at the runway. Let's actually shut that engine off. Let's get out of map view, pull this up, grab this. We'll swing ourselves around about here. Point ourselves at about, I think I'm going to go 45 degrees, and then swing around to a belly up position. Now we shut this off, turn that off. And we stabilize her. Here we go. Oh yeah, we've got the range for this one. This is going to be easy. We're way lighter too because we have we've almost completely drained our fuel. Here we go. I hate that. Stop it. Stop. Stop. It's probably the fireworks that are messing with my stream, I'll be honest with you. 4th of July is the worst holiday. Here we go. Coming in, runway 26. Future, top secret, space plane, landing. Give me your government funding. To 408 by 705. Yeah, I'll do it. That'll be fun. Alright, given that I'm having trouble with my stream, I'm going to stop the stream here. I appreciate y'all who tuned in, and I hope you have a good day.